Are we in a good spot for the camera here? I won't move around too much if that's a good spot for you. And are we live to Ann Arbor as well? All set? All set? Good. Well, hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Good to see you all, and greetings to our colleagues and coworkers also on the Ann Arbor campus. We've been doing these President's Ponderings for a number of years now, just as a way to kind of tee up the school year and give us a little bit of stuff to think about as we begin, kind of reflect a little bit, things on my mind in a kind of a general way. And I do essentially the same content as a part of a speech that I give to the faculty on Monday night. I try to vary the presentation, at least in terms of style, because I know there's some faculty here, and I don't want to go twice like the poor organist who has to listen to the sermon twice, you know. But so that we are all thinking about some of the same things as we begin the school year together, and look forward to doing that with you and sharing with you. Let's begin with a prayer, please. Gracious God, our Father, we thank you for the privilege of serving you in an extraordinary place, Concordia University. And that place, of course, is manifested in lots of different places and in lots of different ways. And we are a part of an extraordinary mission here, and we thank you for the opportunity that we have to serve you in that way. Lord, I thank you for each one gathered here today, and for our many colleagues and coworkers who are not here right now, but are certainly part of this team together, working to carry out the charge that has been given to us by our mission. Each of us has a role to play, and we thank you that we can work together to accomplish great things to your glory. We pray that you would bless us as we begin a new school year, as we think about the ways in which we might have an impact in the lives of our students, and through them in the lives of others. Bless our conversation time today, and all that we do for your name's sake, and in it we pray. Amen. Well, what I enjoy doing each year as a part of this meeting, and as a part of the faculty retreat, as a part of the opening of the school year, is to connect to the theme that has been chosen for that particular year, and kind of weave my comments in and around that. Last year was the first year really where we had a chance, well, I guess the second year, but the first full year really to work on a theme as a single university with two campuses. We kind of started that 2 years ago, where we had two different themes. But last year was fun because we had the same Bible passage and pretty much fairly comparable theme for both campuses. And campus ministry students are the ones who choose this. This year they decided not to make it so easy on me, so we have two verses and two different themes. And we'll see if we can connect them somehow. The theme at the Mequon campus is from 1 Thessalonians 5:11, and that passage reads, "For God has not destined us for wrath, but to obtain salvation through our Lord Jesus Christ, who died for us so that whether we are awake or asleep, we might live with him. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing." And the theme here in Wisconsin will be "Wake Up and Live," based on that passage. And then also from St. Paul, Ephesians chapter 3, verses 20 and 21 in Ann Arbor. "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen." And the theme in Ann Arbor this year will be immeasurably more. So wake up and live immeasurably more. Oh, it'll work, don't worry. So it's been a busy summer, but the highlight of that summer for me occurred just a few days ago when this little one, Ava Bell Meineke, our first grandchild, was born on her grandmother's 55th birthday. So Grammy, Tammy, and Ava share the same birthday, and that's good for me. It's easier to remember that way. But here she is this morning. I have to have daily photographs. Here she is, kind of in a way of existence that I have almost exclusively observed over the last couple of days. This is pretty much how she's been since I first met her on Sunday. Just now she's in for a ride ahead of her, but she doesn't know what to expect. And so the first theme, wake up and live, is one that might be utilized in this moment. And I think about that. Well, let's go ahead and look at the second slide just for a moment, because she eventually does. She opens her eyes, and she obliges the photographer, but she's still puzzled, I think, and whether she's asleep or whether she's awake, she's trying to sort it all out, to figure it all out, to kind of come to some sense of what this is all about. And I'm often amused at the idea that the little child in the womb always comes into the world, generally speaking, kicking and screaming, and I think that's, I don't know, I've never been able to get a straight answer from one, but a baby would I think does that in part because he or she is comfortable, more or less, getting increasingly uncomfortable, but familiar at least with the surroundings of the mother's womb. This is the only home that she's ever known, right? And now she's coming out into this other world that is unfamiliar. It's scary, it's frightening. And no matter how much we might try to coax and cajole and comfort and say, hey, the womb is fine, but really it's so much better out here, right? It's just better. There's so much to see and to do and to experience. And the ride is going to be a wonderful ride. And it just doesn't sink in right away, right? You have to live it to experience it, to understand it. I think that's really the same sort of thing for each one of us as we live out our lives in the womb of the world, isn't it? We have become familiar with this one, have forgotten all about the other one, and for all intents and purposes, we're mostly comfortable here. We like it here well enough. We've figured out how to make it work anyway for the most part. And when it comes time for us to leave this world, generally speaking, we do it kicking and screaming, right? We resist, we fight to the very end to keep on living and breathing and staying with what is familiar to us. And I think all the while, our Father smiles and says, what awaits you on the other side of this is way better, right? Exceedingly, abundantly, above and beyond what we could ever ask for or imagine. Immeasurably more, right? So wake up and live, because the world that our God has given us is an extraordinary one. It's filled with opportunities for service and for building up each other, just as we've been doing. Wake up and live. It's going to be a great ride, Ava. But what awaits us is way beyond what we could ever begin to grasp here, which makes the living of this life all the more significant and all the more opportune for us, because we live in the full knowledge that because of Jesus, the resurrection and the life, we have the promise of life with him forever. And that's a way of connecting these themes together, the one that calls us to wake up from whatever it is that occupies our sleep. And I wonder what babies dream about. I'm sure that Ava is dreaming right now, where is that old guy who keeps showing up here every day, holding me, talking to me, speaking to me in Spanish when I can't even speak English? And where is, what's that all about? Yeah. But she does not know yet all that is in front of her and what awaits her. The only question I had for the nurse when I was visiting Hannah and Zach in the hospital, she was giving them some instructions about birth certificates and stuff like that was, now, so when does the Social Security card actually come? I wondered. Because I'm so eager to start her 529 college plan that you can't do that until you have a Social Security card. So that's maybe the segue into some of the things I want to think about as we wake up to a new school year, live together, encouraging one another, building each other up, even as we have been doing, but all of it with the much broader perspective that while colleges and universities are beginning a new school year all over the country, we are one of those few that does it with a kind of a broader or a bigger picture, the biggest, broadest picture that cannot even be imagined. Because we're not only preparing our students for lives of meaningful service, we're preparing them for heaven, and through them preparing others too, to receive the wonderful promise that is ours in Jesus Christ. So, okay, what I want to talk to you about today as it connects to all of this is more than a dream. It's about a plan. It's about a plan. And when I think about my years at Concordia, this is now my 24th year at Concordia, the beginning of my 19th year as president of Concordia. That far into the future, this little girl will be expending the dollars from her 529 plan and enrolling in university, God willing. So what are we planning for? What do we want it to be like? Not for 19 years from now, but for next year and for the next quarter century, the next half century. It's difficult to pinpoint everything that might be possible. But I think if the past is any indication for us as we look into the future, if the past is any indication for us of how God is able to work in and through broken vessels like us, then we've a lot to look forward to, don't we? Because what has been done among us, and even with great privilege through us, is a lot more than we could have imagined. When we first moved to this campus, for example, just over 3 decades ago. I don't know if anybody was here then. Anybody beat 24 years? So, gosh, I'm the old guy in the room. Not just in the dreams of this child, I'm the old guy in the room. But just in the time that since I've been here, right? The things that have happened on our campus just almost defy our imagination. Immeasurably more. Immeasurably more. Oh, Galen, you came on the same time. Whew, thank goodness. All right. Okay. So, back then we had our faculty meetings in the Luther conference room. That's where we had the faculty meetings, right? We can't hold a faculty meeting in this room now. It's not possible. We imagined the possibility of 2,000 students by the year 2000 because that's what we were told to imagine and to work for. We were well beyond that by the time we reached the year 2000. We would not have imagined at that time the opportunity we've had to grow to our student enrollment the way that we have, or the facilities that we've been able to construct with God's blessing here. We would not have imagined being one university with 2 residential campuses and all that's transpired in Michigan in just the last couple of years. We would not have imagined that, and perhaps that's our weakness. We aim too low sometimes, or we put God in a box and presume that he's capable of only this and not much more. God is capable of immeasurably more, and it goes well beyond buildings or enrollment numbers. It goes into the depth of the human heart, where the Spirit at work through word and sacrament transforms people, transforms life, changes lives, and utilizes even people like us to make a difference. So looking back ought to give us some measure of confidence that going forward, it's the same God, after all, who walks with us and works through us, that there's much that we should look forward to as we work to carry out all that has been entrusted to us, and as we seek to do it as good stewards and faithful to all that he has entrusted to us. But dreaming is not enough. I think it's important for us to dream, but it's more important for us to plan. And so as we dream dreams, we want to put plans that reinforce what we'd like to accomplish into place that help us to achieve some of the things to which we aspire. And so with that in mind, many of us have been a part of, some in great depth and detail, have been a part of a university planning effort that has helped the leadership team that includes faculty and staff to refine this dream into a more coherent plan that is meant to guide our thinking and our acting over the course of the next couple of years as foundation for whatever comes after that. There have been many who, again, have been a part of this over the course of the last several months. Special thanks to Gretchen Jameson, who helped lead all of this while she was still in her 30s, way back then, right? She's turned the corner into a new decade today as we speak, right? Yeah. So happy birthday, Gretchen. So with that in mind, I want to just highlight for you 4 of what we're calling mission, vision, outcomes, and strategies. I'm not going to tear it all apart for you. I'm just going to give you kind of the 30,000-foot perspective on what these things are and what they might mean for us as we think about our work together. And then when I've done that, I'll give you a few updates on a couple other things that are happening, more pedestrian kind of updates, and then we'll open it up for questions that you might have that are on your mind about things. I'm going to take these in an order that I think allows me to begin to construct a narrative around them, okay? And again, we're still talking about waking up to opportunities for service and imagining the big picture. As we do that, I think we ought to dream dreams and devise plans that allow us to continue to aim for growth. And so under the banner purposeful growth, I want us all to be aware that Concordia is not in a leveling off mode. We are still in growth mode, and that's true for both of our campuses. But by purposeful growth, we mean more, again, than just numbers. We mean much more that what our mission statement describes as helping students to develop, to grow in mind and body and spirit. That's our purpose. That's our purposeful aim. That's what we're here for, is to help those students to develop intellectually, spiritually, physically, to grow into all that God has intended for them to be and to become, to grow in their own awareness of their vocation, their calling in the world to serve the Lord. So the rest of that is really subservient to that quest. All of us are involved in helping our students to grow. Okay, so with that as the bedrock, we want to continue to grow also numerically so that we have a chance to reach as many people as we possibly can with our mission. If we believe in what we do, we don't want to limit it to a select few, an elite few. We want to be able to reach as many as we can and do it with competence and excellence. And that's going to have some limitations simply because of function of size and space. So we have to be mindful as we grow of our campus facilities, of human and financial resources, of infrastructure that's going to support that experience. And we also have to be mindful of different ways of delivery and of modalities that will allow us to accomplish our goal and our perspective. And our goal is not just to educate, but is to provide a Concordia education that fulfills our mission. We want to, as we think about this growth, then reach out locally, regionally, globally. That's one of the strategies that we're developing. We want to have a strong admission, enrollment, and outreach, marketing presence as we possibly can, and all of that intended to grow our sphere of influence not for our own glory, for God's glory. Not for our own benefit, but to benefit students who will grow in mind and body and spirit. So we will aim for purposeful growth. To do that, and to do it effectively, a second banner or mission outcome strategy for us is access and opportunity. It's no secret. I mean, if you follow the news at all, you pay attention to any of the conversations that occur about higher education, there are lots and lots of discussions going on about college affordability, about the value of a college diploma. Is it worth the debt that students have to go into if they're going to be able to, are they going to be able to get jobs at the other end of this experience that will allow them to pay back that debt, and so on and so forth. And we're in the midst of those conversations just like everybody else, and trying to define what do we mean and what do we want to accomplish. So if we are in fact interested in reaching as many students as we possibly can with a Christ-centered Lutheran higher education experience, then we have to think about how we can make that available in a way that's going to reach as many students as possible. We've been pretty deliberate in our planning process about avoiding the word affordable. And that's not to say that we don't want our experience to be affordable, but there will always be more affordable options than the one that we provide. And so our goal has to be sure that our students and their parents and others who are involved in financing their education, that they all agree that the Concordia experience has been worth every penny. That it's been worth every penny of what they've invested in their educational experience because of what they've had the opportunity to experience as they've grown among us. So we want to provide the highest value higher education experience. That doesn't mean that we're going to be not paying attention to affordability questions. We have to be in the marketplace, right? We have to be competitive, and so we continue to monitor that and to be on top of that as best as we can. As students come to this place, though, we want them to discover, to develop their sense of calling, their sense of vocation, and that becomes part of the task for all of us, to help them, to mentor them, to share with them, to help to shape them as they think about what this means. We want, if we're successful in this regard, then we would expect more of our students who matriculate to persist to graduation, right? We want to have strong persistence rates, retention rates among our students. We want their experience to be such a positive one that when they graduate, they don't just look back on it fondly, but they remain connected to the university, looking for more learning opportunities, looking for ways in which we can continue to be a partner with them throughout their lives. Okay, so our growth is purposeful. In order to accomplish that, we need to be able to provide access and opportunity for an ever-growing range of students. And when they get here, the third of 4 points, we want their experience to be entirely faith and learning centered. Faith and learning centered. If that's going to be true in any sort of authentic way, then I appeal to you. You and I are the role models of servant leadership within our own respective vocations, as faculty mentors, as staff members who serve students' needs, as leaders in scholarship and service that connect those students in a real and authentic way. I mean, that's absolutely imperative. We can teach them stuff, and they'll learn important things, but the way they experience that in the relationships that they have with us, that's Christ at work in an incarnational way. We are the voice, we are the hands, we are the feet of the living Lord Jesus touching the lives of others. And it's an enormous responsibility. But again, it's the Lord who works in and through us. So to be faith and learning centered begins with that relationship that we have with those students. They will learn in innovative and Christ-centered environments that's guided by a robust and comprehensive assessment. In other words, it's not enough for us just to say this is important to us. We want to measure ourselves. We want to ask ourselves, how well are we doing at this? Are we accomplishing what we have set out to do? So think of yourself then as as servants of the Lord Jesus, and as agents of the university for our admission work, our retention work, our advancement work, for everything that we do. I mean, you're a part of that, and we work on that together. Our growth is purposeful. We want to provide access and opportunity for a growing number and range of students. When they come here, we don't want there to be any doubt about what that Concordia experience is. It's one that is faith and learning centered, with Jesus Christ at the center of faith and learning. And then fourth, we aspire to have impact through service and leadership. So as we develop our mission vision theme for our strategic plan, this is the outcome of what all of this means. And it really relates also to our mission statement, doesn't it? And we talk about how we develop students in mind, body, and spirit for service to Christ in the church and in the world. Well, that's what we're after, right? It's not just to get students a good education or to help even them to grow individually. It's about the difference that they're going to make in the lives of others, near and far around the world. So again, just to repeat those banners: purposeful growth, access and opportunity, faith and learning centered, impact through service and leadership. In some ways, those things can be kind of squishy, you know, and they don't really mean anything until they mean something to each one of us, and we put them in action, and then we commit ourselves to thinking about the implication of things like that for us in our own calling, in our own place, wherever we might work. So how is all that going to affect? I mean, she's obviously bored. She would prefer to go back to this at this point, right? Can we go backwards, right? She'd rather go back to sleep rather than to think about things like this. But in her experience, and the students who come before and those who come after her, if there's a place like Concordia, that really is intent upon the things that I've described, that's a pretty amazing thing. And I know that many of you were yourselves recipients of that kind of experience at this place or a place like this, and that all of us have a chance to be a part of it. And what a great blessing that will be for her and for our students who are coming this fall. And there will be a lot of them on both campuses. Let me begin to just describe a little bit about what we can expect for this year as we begin. We will be on the Mequon campus pretty much full. There are a few beds left if you are a guy, but if you're like Ava, there are no beds left, and she doesn't require a bed. She can sleep anywhere. I can tell you that right now. But anyway, so we're pretty much full on campus, and we're back to that situation that we were in not so very long ago when we didn't have quite enough space, or that things were very crowded. And some of you will recall how not very long ago we used to have a parking problem on campus, and then for a few years we thought that was kind of funny, you know, and then it wasn't funny anymore. And now we have a bit of a parking problem. Still kind of funny, but not that funny. You know, it's at that point right now. And by the way, you know, these last few days of summer, enjoy parking up close, because that's just about to end very soon. But you know, so all of those infrastructure things that we talked about that go beyond just those kind of basic human needs of like where you're going to sleep at night, or when do you go to the cafeteria to eat, or where you park your car, all that. I mean, those kind of things you have to deal with. But beyond those, sufficient staff to be able to accommodate all the things that we have said we'd like to do, and faculty and so forth. It's certainly a challenge. In Ann Arbor, we'll be welcoming one of the largest classes we've had in years. And it may, depending on the final number, could be the largest class that we've had of new students since the 1970s, and we're grateful for that. There are significant construction projects that are going on the Ann Arbor campus. The complete renovation of the Kreft Arts Center will be accomplished right as school begins. The football stadium will be ready to go as the season begins, certainly by the time of dedication and later on in the month. But those are significant strides forward, and there's still a lot of work to be done, obviously, on both campuses. But Concordia continues to be a place that students find desirable, and we're grateful for that. And we see that as a great opportunity for us. As we begin, I would just encourage you, as I do each year, to be mindful of the fact that while for many of us, for Gayla and I at least, this is the 24th year that we've done this, for some of our families, it's the first time. It's the very first time that they've dropped off son or daughter. And until you've done that, you can't really fully appreciate the sort of lump in the throat experience that is. And to the extent that we're able to help our parents and our students to appreciate that we're here and that we care for them and that we want their experience to be a positive one, that goes a long way, suffice it to say. So let's be mindful that you only get one chance to make a first impression, right? And so let's be patient. It gets crazy, it gets zany, but let's have fun with it too, because it really is also a very fun, one of those sort of fun rites of passage that we're privileged to be a part of. But I think I'm anticipating a very exciting year, and it looks to me like we're going to have plenty of opportunity to make a difference, and we're grateful for that. So let me at this point pause. We've blathered on for about half an hour here, and give you a chance to ask questions about this or about anything else that you've heard about or that you would like to know about. And do we have any way of monitoring questions from Ann Arbor? Okay, so let me just to reiterate that in Ann Arbor and at the centers, if you're listening in, go ahead and email kimberly.mazantine@cuw.edu. We're going to make it a little more complicated for you, but if you'd like to do, it's in the email. All right, well, then it's easy. So any questions, and she'll be monitoring those. We'll start here.
You want to expand on how we can do that?
Well, there are, I suppose, in higher education, there's really very little that these days that is not being assessed, and we have. I should say, I mean, I'd be remiss if I did not say we have this extraordinary institutional researcher on our campus here, just a remarkable person of great skill and ability, and Tammy and May and Ann Arbor are always thinking about, along with all of our faculty and all of our programs, ways in which we can measure these outcomes. I don't know if you want to say more about this. Are you speaking specifically about the kind of Christian experience piece, or just in general? Yeah. I mean, we can talk more about it, but we want to measure not only how well our faculty are doing in their classrooms, but really the kind of length and breadth and depth of the student experience, to be sure that we're not just saying stuff. You know, talk is kind of cheap. You want to make sure that you're really assessing how well you're doing. So I don't know if you want to say anything more specific about it.
Specifically, we do have KPIs that may be familiar, key performance indicators that are embedded in the strategic plan that are directly aligned to those 4 banner themes. And these KPIs have sort of come together in forms of data and numbers and narratives and ways that we can monitor those over time to see if things are increasing, decreasing, growing, shrinking, whatever.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think that it also will allow me to say that I've just scratched the very, very tip of the surface in my presentation today, that as you drill down into this plan, there's been a lot of thought about how this applies within departments, within schools, and then how we measure through performance indicators that we've begun to identify. Thank you. Yes, Kim, you have your hand partially up there.
There's a question from Ann Arbor, and they would like you to talk briefly about the initiative to acquire the new building known as the North of Campus CUAA, which is the old law school. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that we already are facing at Concordia Ann Arbor is space crunch, and that's true no matter how we move forward here. There is more room for housing in Ann Arbor right now for students, but academic space is already quite tight. And as we begin to add additional academic programs, we have to come up with the strategies for how best to accomplish that, and how to do that in the near term and also in the long term. I think our preference would be, if we had our druthers, would be to build buildings right on campus, wherever possible, so that we can keep the experience one that's closely connected. But that said, there is an opportunity in Ann Arbor for the possibility of acquiring the Thomas Cooley Law School, which is 2 miles north of campus. It's a wonderful building. It housed the law school there, but law schools have experienced difficult times, and so Cooley has consolidated their operation to their one campus in Lansing. And so we've looked at it very carefully. We're also exploring other potential options for leasing and for rental. We have added athletic training and are in the process of adding nursing at Concordia Ann Arbor. We don't have sufficient space for those programs even now. So we do need to move forward on it. The question that's facing the leadership team and especially the Board of Regents right now is what's the best strategy for going forward. But that should be determined within the next, well, we have to make a decision within the next month and a half. So. What else? What else have you heard about or you'd like to hear about? Rumblings, things you might like to tell me about so I should know about them? That's usually the way it works, actually, to be honest. The Lake Moon Festival? It was wonderful, and congratulations to Lisa and our team here that just did a fabulous job of welcoming the community here to celebration of art and music, and one of the most difficult 5K end of race experiences that you'll ever have, coming up the switchback. That there's true test of your mettle at that point. But it was really good. I have to admit though that it was the same day that Ava was born, and so my mind was engaged in other things, wondering, waiting. But it was really good stuff. Let's thank Lisa, in fact, for the good work and her team. Let me address something else, though. Speaking of neighbors, just so you're all aware, I don't know what's going to happen here with this. I think on the whole, the relationship with the neighbors on both campuses has improved. One of the things that we've experienced here and are beginning to experience also in Ann Arbor is that as we grow, as we expand, that's going to touch the lives of those who live nearest to us. And we want to be sensitive to that as best we can, obviously, and to be mindful of their interests and concerns as it relates to things like traffic and litter and so forth. And so once again, to encourage you to avoid driving on Lakeshore Drive if possible. Those kinds of little things, they're just neighborly gestures that we can make. But it's no secret that here on the Mequon campus, we've had some neighbors who have argued, and unsuccessfully, that our Lakeshore Restoration Project has encroached upon their property. Some of our nearest neighbors actually took us to court a few years ago. Jury trial found that wasn't true, and that we were exonerated, and so forth and so on. But some neighbors even further down the lake have not given up on that, and still would argue that this project has adversely affected them. And there's been some rumblings. Peter has been involved, Gretchen's been involved in conversations where they've even threatened, to try and give us a black eye in the court of public opinion if they can't win it in the actual court, with picketing or lawn signs and things like that. And it's really unfortunate because, we've really sort of just taken it all this time. But it's possible. In fact, they had threatened to picket Lake Moon, which would have not been very nice of them to do. But I think you should know that from our perspective, from the board's perspective, from leadership's perspective, from our architect's perspective, from our legal counsel's perspective, from the jury's perspective, our project is accomplishing just what we hoped it would, and in a way that we hoped it would, and that is to abate the erosion that is occurring on our campus. Now, the fact is that those homes nearest to us, their beaches are no longer being replenished by our erosion. That was the purpose of the project, right, to stop erosion. Lake levels are very high. That has an impact. And if families have not done anything to stabilize their own properties, then that's going to have an impact on them. And I say that with great sympathy, because that's a big problem. But Concordia is not the source of the problem, right? Lake Michigan is actually the source of the problem. Take it up with the lake, you know. It's but I just want you to be aware of that. Mario's aware of it and his team, and hopefully nothing will come of it. But they've been, you know, some of you they've got something in the Journal Sentinel earlier this year. It was on Fox News. Just so you know, and I can say it in a very public and transparent way here, we feel very positively about what we've done and what we've accomplished, and without qualm or hesitation. We've done the right thing, and we've done it well, and we're very proud of it, and that's how we're going to continue to approach it as we go forward. Michael's a neighbor. He gets along with us all right. Okay. When's his contract up? All right. What else? And administrative council members or academic council members, is there anything else that we've been talking about you think the larger group would like to hear more about? What else?
Well, they're thinking about that. There's another question from Ann
Sure.
Arbor. And they were asking if there was any movement about weddings at the manor.
Oh, okay, great. Well, just in general, the board acted at its last board meeting regarding wedding policies for both campuses, weddings and receptions. And here on the Mequon campus, it's been fairly limited. I mean, we have them occasionally, but in Ann Arbor, it's been a much bigger business, weddings and particularly receptions. And in light of the most recent Supreme Court decision, we chose to step back for a moment and to say, look, we're not going to do any weddings or receptions for the time being until our board has had a chance to sort this out and to think about how we want to proceed. And where we've landed is that weddings and receptions will be permitted on both campuses, provided that they are Lutheran Church Missouri Synod weddings. We're an institution of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. In other words, that they follow the church's teaching, that they're performed by LCMS clergy, that those in the wedding party, that they are either students or alums of the university or immediate members of the family of faculty and staff or faculty and staff members, and that the wedding couple has gone through marriage counseling, and that the officiating pastor has been approved by me with recommendation from our campus pastors. And that wedding receptions will be also permitted, but only for those couples whose wedding is on the campus, is not just a venue for receptions, in other words. So we are happy to be a part of the celebration of marriage of those who are close to our community, and we want to do it in a way that's consistent with what we believe and teach and confess without any worry about that. So hopefully that will allow for that to continue to occur. Good question. Ann Arbor's throwing the questions out there, the challenge. Maybe you can ask if I can't see you. I mean, I'll close my eyes and just raise your hand. Yes?
Are there any plans to utilize the space that we have across the street where the tennis courts are?
Can you repeat the question for Ann
Yeah,
Arbor?
the question was the utilization of the property south of campus here in Mequon across Highland Road. Currently, that property is not zoned for our institutional use. It would have to go through a rezoning process. And we got special permission for the tennis courts that we put up there. But at this point, we can't get anything done over there until this rezoning has occurred. And so we've been pretty careful about that. We realize that's going to be a fairly big project. It's going to involve the neighbors. We recognize that. And at some point, that's going to have to occur. The plan for the placement of the new academic building on this campus is on this side of Highland Road. We haven't determined exactly where that will be yet. We're still working on that. And by the way, we're in the midst of that campaign, and we're making progress. We're hoping to be able to raise all that money in fairly short order so we can begin construction on that building. But that will also be on this side of Highland Road. But if our growth is purposeful, and if the Lord blesses it, you know, we're we're being kind of squeezed into this little space here. And so I think that day will come. Now, whether it comes during my tenure or whoever comes after me, that remains to be seen. But Concordia is going to be around here for a long time. And eventually, I think, as God blesses the university, we'll see growth to the north and to the south, I would expect. Kim, you have any more?
Actually, Bob McCormick just wanted to share with everyone that there's going to be a open for the Craft Center Phase 1, September 17th and 18th, and a public ribbon cutting on the 18th, and Carl and Shirley Kraft will be on campus for that.
Yeah, that'll be a great celebration. It'll be a wonderful, wonderful new addition. By the way, Ann Arbor folks know that the Martin Luther statue is now in place on the Ann Arbor campus. It won't be exactly his twin. It'll be just another version of himself in statue form. Will be also included on this campus, part of our way of celebrating the 500th anniversary of the Reformation in 1517. So we're grateful for the opportunity to do that. Some of you might not be aware that next year the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod will be meeting at its national convention. Will be meeting in Milwaukee, and we will be hosting an event, an evening for all of the delegates on our campus the Monday of that convention in July. They'll all bus out here. It'll be a great chance for us to showcase our campus. Luther will be in place by then too. And there'll be kind of an all hands on deck sort of thing. So we'll be looking for lots of support to make sure that that's a good event. With that in mind, you should know too that the board also made one other monumental decision at the last board meeting in terms of change of policy. The board will now allow, in addition to wine, also beer to be served at Concordia events, subject to the approval of the president. So, this had a lot to do with the conventioneers coming here next summer. It can't be a Lutheran convention, I guess, if we don't allow beer to be served, I guess. Well, anyway. Important stuff. Oh, Mario's just thrilled, I can see. Yeah. It'll be a classy event. Yes?
You talked a little bit about rumblings. There seems to be a lot of rumblings as far as marketing and shifts in that department. Can you speak on how that's moving forward?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you bet. I think that...
The question is...
question is about marketing and what changes have occurred with regard to marketing. Again, referring to Gretchen Jameson, she has been promoted to Senior Vice President of University Affairs. And under her leadership, this will include not only the broader marketing effort, but also church relations, public relations, community relations kinds of things. And together with Lisa and with Anita and with other staff members, we're going to try to have an increasingly, as I mentioned at the beginning, more robust presence in terms of the marketplace and how others connect to us and know about us. So we're excited about it. I think that I think we'll see really significant strides forward in all of those relationships as a result of this effort. Others have been involved in this. It's been a lot of kind of moving parts working together to figure out exactly how the puzzle will all work as it relates to the OCDE office, for example. We've gotten Peter a little bit more involved in some of the relationships with the political piece as an interest of his. So I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts there to it. And but I think one of the goals is to break down the silos and to connect it all together in a more meaningful way, whether it's marketing or admissions or advancement or church relations, public relations, community relations, and so forth. So I'm excited about it, and we've got a great team that's already been developed there. But, good, thanks for asking. I meant to talk about that a little bit.
Another question. Online admissions counselors would like an update on the optometry program.
The optometry program has been approved by the Board of Regents. We've run into some difficulties with the accreditors, I mean the optometry accreditors. And sort of joked in the past, but it's also kind of meant to be a serious comment. If ever there was an accrediting body that lacked vision, it would be the optometry people. So don't tell them I said that. That's not for the record. But I mean, they have a very, we propose some kind of innovative things and some interesting ways of going at this. And in the end, I think there's a bit of a guild mentality. They just were not very receptive to it. And one of the things that they've been most adamant about is that they feel like optometry, although it would be not an extraordinarily large program on our campus, ought to be its own school with its own dean. And so we've trying to work that out, trying to figure that out. One of the things we're giving consideration to is the possibility of having that program on our Ann Arbor campus as kind of a signature program, a new program to have there. We'll see. I mean, it's right now it's still held in abeyance. We've got a lot going on right now, and but it has met with our internal and ecclesial approvals, but not with the optometry accrediting approval at this point. Yes, sir.
As you said earlier, the student population is always growing. What is your plan for like student housing in the future?
Well, we'll be pretty full this year. And you know what? The question was about student housing and the plan for student housing in the future. As it relates to the Ann Arbor campus, right now there's still space available. Ann Arbor has more of a tradition and history of students living off campus, not just at Concordia, but the University of Michigan. There's really an abundance of student housing available in the community, and so it hasn't been an issue yet, although I imagine it will be soon. It is already an issue here. As I mentioned, we're going to be pretty full this year. We don't have any immediate plan to build another hall at this point, and we've been through this before. So we look for off-campus options for a while until we're absolutely sure that we need to build a residence hall, because they're not inexpensive to build. One thing that we haven't done in the past, well, two things we haven't done. One, we haven't torn down any of our residence halls, right? Because we can't afford to take them offline because they're needed. That's a bit of a problem. There is, I think, a qualitative difference between living in one hall as opposed to another. I won't say which. Some are better than others, you know. I live in campus housing. It's very nice. But you know, you don't want to take one down and lose X number of beds. And as a matter of fact, we have the house out in front will be full of students this year. Our board, almost every time we meet, there are people who say, when are you going to take that house down? When are you going to take that house down? Well, it's going to be full of students this year. So we realize that there's going to be continuing need for that. The other thing that we have not done is we have not really stepped into the world of low density housing. You know, smaller units, less expensive to build, not unlike what we have maybe in Ann Arbor, that could house students and put pods of those up around campus. That might be something that would be possible, though, for us if we were to expand across the street or to the north as a possibility. So it's always on the table, but I don't think we're not planning on another high-density hall in the next year or two for sure. Al will be glad to hear that. He's a year or two. You got to be kidding me. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yes.
What's our number of new students coming in this year?
I think for traditional undergraduate students, the number Ken Gash has been using is rounded is about 800. And that compares to last year was about 830. So it's a little bit less than that. But part of the reason for that, I think, is that our athletics teams all have very full rosters. So there was really not as much recruiting opportunity for new student athletes this year. That's a part of some of it depends on what Dave Berner, where are you, Dave? So it depends on international students, and that number's not easy to pin down even yet. But what are you thinking?
Probably around 35 or so, and then all up we could be pushing 200.
Yeah, so that's great. It's great to have students from around the world on our campus. So it remains to be seen in Ann Arbor. We've been talking between 250 and 260 new. That's freshmen and transfer students. So let me bring it together here. We're closing in on an hour. Summer is just about over, right? That long, restful, relaxing summer that we were anticipating is already over. So no more time to relax. Time to wake up, right? Wake up. Wake up. Time to wake up and live. I mean, this is the life that the Lord has called us to in this place at this time in our lives. And as the passage again, I think very ably says it, therefore encourage one another, build one another up just as you're doing. That's what we're trying to do today. Wake up and live, and do it in a way that as we begin this year, that with eyes of faith wide open, we look for the Lord to provide immeasurably more than we can even imagine right now as we sit here, so that as we look back on it in May or whenever we look back on it, we'll see the hand of God continuing to bless Concordia, and what a great thing it is for us to be a part of that. And thank you for all that you do. God bless the rest of your day, and if I can ever be of any help or assistance to you, let me know, and thanks for coming today.